Harihi Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanao Bhunaktu Sahaviryan Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastoma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So now we're having the discussion between Dhritarashtra and his counselors on now what to do that they've, the Duryodhana has come back and informed them of the news of the Pandavas and everything like this. So what should they do? Because they were going on the principle Pandavas are dead, so naturally they just go on ruling the kingdom as it is. But if the Pandavas are alive, then it goes back to the situation it was before they thought they were dead, that Yudhishthira is the Yuvaraj. He was the one who was supposed to be there. And so then going around the room asking like this. So Bhishma then asked Dhritarashtra if he knew how the citizens felt, right? Because you're supposed to know what the citizens are thinking. It's not spying that you, in the way that you're finding out what they say and then you're discontent in that, then they're silenced. This is that you find out what people think, because in front of the king they may or may not say what they think. So the spies and that will be in the market, they'll hear the general talking and all this and that. And so then they know it's like saying you have your finger on the pulse, so they can tell what the citizens are. So if they're happy or not in that, because since the king's duty is to see that the citizens are protected and satisfied, then he has to know is that, are these feelings correct or not? How is coming like this? Is it now that this has come up from another king is making some politics? Or is this because management is bad? Or maybe he's managing all right, but then his officers below him are not. The bureaucrats and all that are giving the people trouble. So he has to know so that he can make everything correct so the people are actually protected and satisfied. So he points out, they had blamed the Pandavas' death on the king. Right? So they said Dhritarashtra was the cause of that. So that means they all, like Yudhishthira, as we saw when the Pandavas were leaving, they were ready to leave with him. That the brothers had survived would repair his reputation. And they'll say, there was some misunderstanding, they came back and this and that. And so then everybody would be happy. Dhritarashtra should now take advantage of that good fortune and make amends with the Pandavas by awarding them their kingdom. Right? So he's saying, just give them the kingdom, then everything will work out. They were virtuous, united, and ever protected by the Supreme Lord. Even Indra with all the gods could not deprive them of their rights. If you desire justice, the welfare of all, and my pleasure, then give half the kingdom to these boys. Right? So he said you should give the kingdom back, so you give them half. Like that. So we have to remember also Bhishma is half from the heavenly planets. His mother is Ganga Devi. So then he's basically on the same kind of position like the Pandavas. They're not ordinary people. And so then he's saying these things with great wisdom in that. He was trained by Brihaspati, so he knows politics and all that and how to deal and run a kingdom from Brihaspati, who advises Indra, so he'll know that much. Bhishma sat down, looking across at Duryodhana. So you see the kings, they say exactly what they want to say. They say it nicely. They say it exactly. It's very clear, boldly. And then they don't talk more. They sit down. It's not like they get up there and they love to hear their own voice. Right? Sat down looking across at Duryodhana, who breathed heavily and ground his teeth, right? Because Duryodhana is not going to like any of this. If it's not saying that Duryodhana, you're fabulous and anything that you feel and want to do is the perfect thing to do and it's the best thing, if anyone says anything other than that, then they're just an enemy, they're against the state, because he just takes it, I am the state, rather than I'm just a guy and all these guys know how to run a state and they say I'm the problem, so he's the problem. No, his thing is he's perfect. The prince stared at the floor as Drona stood up to speak, because he knows, okay, Bhishma said this, now Drona is going to say a similar thing, right? The prince stared at the floor as Drona stood up to speak. "O sire, it is said that counselors should always speak what is right, true, and conducive to the king's welfare and fame. My opinion then is the same as Bhishma's. Return the kingdom to the Pandavas. Send a messenger skilled in diplomacy to Drupad, along with many gifts. And tell him how the alliance of his house with the house of Kuru has enhanced your power and dignity. O king, this will undoubtedly be in your best interests." Right, so he's saying, same thing he said. Now, as a practical point, then, in doing that, accepting the Pandavas, send messengers, send gifts, speak to Drupad, speak nicely and all that, because otherwise he's going to think badly about them. He's a powerful person. Drona advised that Drupad be told how happy both Dhritarashtra and his sons have become by all of what has happened, right? So hearing the news that their cousins are alive and now they've attained Draupadi and everything like this. The Pandavas should be brought back in state to Hastinapur. Then they should then be installed in their parental kingdom. This was the people's desire. The Pandavas are no less Dhritarashtra's sons than his own offspring. He should treat them equally. Right? Because there is the element of the people's desire, but it's not necessarily that they vote for it, as in the modern democracy. So, and then only you know the people's desire. The king said they should already know what the people think and then try to be fulfilling it. Of course, it has to be in line with scriptures, has to be correct like this, but they should be working in that direction. So if they would prefer, the Pandavas as king, and they're supposed to be the king, so then why wouldn't you make them that way? When Drona finished speaking, Karna sprang from his seat. He could take no more. Breathing heavily, his brow furrowed. He thundered, "How surprising that these two so-called ministers should tender such advice. Although you have supported them, O king, they do not look to your good. While concealing the wickedness in their heart, they speak words purporting to be in your interests." Karna fumed, because he's against the Pandavas like that. So even if it is correct, he's not going to see it. Bhishma and Drona's advice was useless. A man's happiness and distress depend upon destiny alone. Another person's acts could in no way affect anyone. Everything was fixed by fate. Right? So you see, as the materialist becomes this fatalistic kind of thing where they, if it doesn't go your way, there's nothing I can do. It's just like this, and it's just happening, and I don't want it to happen. Why is it happening? What can we do? Fate's not. But at the other times, they think, no, I will make the endeavor and I will change it. If it works, then they'll say, yes, see how good it is. I made my endeavor. I'm working. I change things. And if it doesn't, what can I do? Fate's like this and that. So it's either they're glorious for their work, or if it doesn't go right, there's nothing they can do. So they're always perfect, If in the course of destiny Dhritarashtra acquired the throne, then who could oppose that? Why should they fear the Pandavas? Dhritarashtra had become king by fate's arrangement. And if fate decreed it, then he would remain in that position no matter what anyone said or did. Right? So yes, of course, if he's supposed to, no matter what anyone said or did, but the whole point is that he's not supposed to be, technically the king if Yudhishthir's there. And as far as we see the citizens, they are supportive of the Pandavas. So it's not his business. It's not about just who's in charge. It's about what's the best for the state. So he's saying what is best for the state is what should be said. That's what is Drona's point. It is said that counselors should always speak what is right, true, and conducive to the king's welfare and fame. Right? So that's the best. Karna looked angrily at both Bhishma and Drona as he concluded his speech. These two have spoken out of fear of or favoritism towards the Pandavas, right? It can't be that they're correct. O king, judge for yourself the motives of your ministers. Then do what you feel is right. But of course, you don't have to judge Duryodhana or Karna, because they're only working selflessly for the state. It has nothing to do with their inimical feelings towards the Pandavas. Dhritarashtra remained silent, but Drona spoke out again. Karna, you have spoken out of envy of the Pandavas. Due to your attachment for Duryodhana, you desire only to injure the Pandavas. You should know that what I have said is certainly for the benefit of this house. If we act otherwise, then in my opinion, the Kurus will be exterminated. And they acted otherwise, and the Kurus were exterminated, down to the last man, literally. Right? Dhritarashtra is not dead because he's blind, and so he's not on the battlefield, but everybody else. Vidura had been observing the situation closely. Now it was his turn to speak. He could see by Dhritarashtra's demur and silence that he was uncertain. The intelligent minister stood up and addressed the king. "O sire, after careful consideration, I cannot think of any better friends to you than Bhishma and Drona. They have spoken what is for your certain good, but you do not accept their advice. The foolish Karna may disagree with them, but their words are meant only for your welfare. It has never been seen that they gave you bad advice at any time." Right? Everything is accepted. Whatever they say, that's correct. But if it comes to the Pandavas and about their position, then it's all wrong and they don't support the house. Everything else they've said, done, everything. But somehow or another, they're blinded by envy, as he pointed out. They are experienced, wise, and learned in Scripture. Neither of them are in any way less than Rama, the great son of Dasarath. They regard your sons and the Pandavas with equal eyes. Why then do you disregard their counsel? So they're saying, give back. They're not saying give the whole thing to them. They're saying give half the kingdom. They have a big kingdom. Vidura then gave his own views of the situation. Dhritarashtra's partiality towards his own sons would lead to his downfall. The Pandavas were powerful and fixed in virtue. They could not be overcome by force. Indeed, they were capable of withstanding even the gods in battle. And these aren't they're just saying that to as some praise. They're literally, that's the position. It means we have to remember before, Arjuna, simply with carrying a torch in his hand, brought down a Gandharva king. And we know that Dhritarashtra's father, Vichitravirya, fought with the Gandharva for 3 years and lost. And Arjuna, in just one attack, knocked him out of his chariot unconscious and grabbed him by the hair and dragged him to Yudhishthira. While the grandfather, then he had fought for years and years and years, and then finally was defeated. So you can see is that even though their prowess is great, the Kurus, Pandavas are just in another dimension. Besides the mighty Drupad, they had Krishna and Balaram as allies, right? So that's nothing to sniff at, right? There was no doubt that wherever there was Krishna, there would be victory, because they know that he's the Supreme Lord. And so they all know that. So right here you have two Mahajans in the court. Vidura as Yamaraj and Bhishma. And they're saying this. That's 2 out of 12 in the universe. That's two of the greatest authorities in the universe. But whatever, due to their envy and that, they won't be able to take this properly. Standing before Dhritarashtra, Vidura spoke firmly. "Wash away, O king, the stain of ill repute brought about by the incident at Varnavata. Please the citizens of this state. Do what is just and proper and give to the Pandavas what is rightfully theirs. If you listen to the sinful advice of Duryodhana, Shakuni, and Karna, your kingdom and fortune will surely be annihilated." Dhritarashtra remains silent for some minutes. He doesn't say it'll be reduced or this. He'll be annihilated. Just nothing left. Dhritarashtra remained silent for some minutes. As much as he desired the advancement of his own sons over that of the Pandavas, he could not deny the truth of Vidura's words. Placing his hand upon his scepter, he said, "The learned Bhishma, the Rishi Drona, and your illustrious self, Vidura, have all spoken the truth about what is good for me. The Pandavas are certainly my sons and are entitled to this kingdom. Go, Vidura, and bring them here along with their mother. Bring too the celestial beauty, Draupadi. By good fortune the Pandavas live. By good fortune they have attained Drupad's daughter as their wife. By good fortune our strength has now increased," right? Because technically, if they're favorable, Drupad's now with them. And he's such powerful. Who can give them trouble? and they have Karna, like that. So Karna's there, Drupad's there, the Pandavas there. Who can deny the authority of the Kuru line? So as the dynasty, then they'll very comfortably be able to perform their duties as emperor of the world, very comfortably. By good fortune, our strength is now increased, and by good fortune, the wicked Purochana is dead. Dhritarashtra dismissed the assembly. Duryodhana and Karna stormed out, closely followed by Dushasana and the other Kaurava princes. Vidura left and made preparations to go immediately to Kampilia, while the blind king was led back to the chambers by his servants. Early the next morning, Vidura departed for the Panchala kingdom. He took with him numerous jewels and various kinds of wealth for Drupad, the Pandavas, and Draupadi. A large contingent from Dhritarashtra's army accompanied him as he made his way along the smooth forest roads. Vidura had heard that Krishna had gone to Kampilia to visit the Pandavas, and he felt excited at the prospect of seeing that all-powerful personality, as well as his beloved nephews. Right? So they had gone back, Krishna, to Mathura, and then from there they had, sent all kinds of gifts. But then now again he has come down to see them. So he felt excited at the prospect of seeing that all-powerful personality as well as his beloved nephews. Right? So he's seeing the Supreme Lord and the pure devotees. So he's good. When he arrived at Kampilia, Drupad received him with honor, and the Pandavas were overjoyed to see him. They greeted him with tears in their eyes and touched his feet. The old minister embraced each of the brothers warmly. Krishna then came forward and bowed before Vidura, who embraced him, feeling a surge of ecstatic love. He gazed at Krishna for some moments, and the Yadava smiled affectionately at him. Vidura then offered Draupadi brilliant golden ornaments studded with diamonds and rubies, and he offered Drupad a heap of shining gems. Right? Because the king, you're going to give him piles of gems, piles of gold, bars, and these kind of things, and then he'll do things with it. But to the girls, you can put it on ornaments, usable stuff immediately, not stuff that you have to make something with. Like that. So that's just the way it works. Because the king then has options what he can do, and the girls could wear it. Right? Because, When they were all seated in Drupad's council chamber, Vidura said, "O king, along with your sons and ministers, please hear the message I bring from Dhritarashtra. He and his sons and ministers have repeatedly asked after your welfare. Your beloved friend Drona has mentally embraced you and sent his warmest greetings." Because he's going to say that Dhritarashtra is happy with it. He means he'd rather do other, but this is the way it works. So this is the official statement. And the point is he's your old friend, because the point was he wasn't an equal, so you couldn't be friends. Now he's an equal, because so you're naturally friends. All the Kuru elders are overjoyed at our new alliance. They feel as if they had acquired a new kingdom. Knowing all this, O sire, please permit the Pandavas to go to Hastinapur. The Kurus long to see them again. Otherwise, they'll say, "Why you should go there? You're inimical, so you stay here and be established here." Or in some way, they'll work something out. Vidura described how much the people in Hastinapur were anxious to see the brothers return with their new bride. He hoped the Pandavas themselves desired again to see their own home. Would Drupad allow them to enter their own city in state? Right? Because now he's the father-in-law, so he's technically that authority, that close, and so he's staying with them and all that, so he's asking for the permission. Drupad smiled. "Wise Vidura, it is surely proper for these boys to return to their ancestral kingdom. But it is not proper for me to tell them to leave. Let them decide for themselves." So his point is that, okay, I may be the father-in-law, but it's not my business to tell them. It's their choice. They're married persons now. It's not like they're students and all that, so they need that kind of direction. "Let us also consult Krishna, for he is always interested in what is best for the Pandavas." Right? So then Drupad saying, well, we'll ask the Pandavas themselves, we'll ask Krishna, see what they say. Yudhishthira stepped forward and said that he and his brothers were now dependent upon Drupad. They would do whatever the king commanded. Krishna said, in my view, the Pandavas should go to Hastinapur, but we should all abide by Drupad's opinion, for the king is learned in all aspects of virtue. Like Krishna says, well, my opinion is they should go, but we should hear what Drupad has to say. Because for Krishna, it's not about him controlling the situation directly like that. It's about the relationships and the interaction and all. He's God. Without even being sitting there, he can make it go the way he wants. The modes of nature will make it happen. So for him, what's fun is the nice interactions between himself and the devotees and like that. That's what's fun. Drupad agreed with Krishna. These princes are now as dear to me as they are to Vasudeva. No one is more their well-wisher than Krishna, and he will only counsel what is for their good. Let them depart for Hastinapur. Right, so Drupad's saying, as sons-in-law, now he considers them the same way as Vasudeva would consider them sons. Soon they were ready to leave, right? Because Kunti and the relationship and like this. The Pandavas made their fond farewells to Drupad and his sons. The old king and his wife shed tears as their daughter mounted the chariot with Kunti. They stood with the other Kuru elders outside the palace as the Pandavas proceeded slowly down the royal highway towards the city gate. Krishna went with them on his own splendid golden chariot, and with great pleasure they all journeyed together to Hastinapur. They entered the city like a line of celestials entering Amaravati, Indra's splendid city. So Krishna also went there just to make sure everything's going nicely. Because otherwise, you don't want any politics to change. So by Krishna going there, then it makes it even more strong that Krishna is their ally. The citizens thronged the streets. Everyone longed to see the Pandavas again. They crowded around the brothers as the procession moved slowly along the main road towards Dhritarashtra's palace, right? Because they've been gone for years now. The Pandavas could hear the people's explanations. The best of men, Yudhishthira, has returned at last. That exalted soul knows the precepts of virtue. He regards us as if we were his nearest relatives. So that's the king is taking care of them as if they're his own relatives. That's the whole position. That's what the kings are supposed to do. It's not a matter of just a political position. Amongst themselves there may be politics, but the point is how they deal with the people. It has to be as if the people are relatives. So you're going to deal what's the best for them, how it's going to go. And so if they're doing things that are correct, that's going to be supported. They need things that's going to be taken care of. You're going to make arrangements. Of course, they have to work, do their duties. They can't be lazy and just expect the state to support them. But they still are, the best arrangements are made so they can do their duties. And at the same time is that if they're doing something wrong, then it's corrected. It's told to them what's wrong. It's just, it's according to Scripture, so it's consistent. And so then the people know if someone does something wrong, this happens, they're doing right, then of course. Like that. Not that people who are doing wrong will be doing okay. People who are doing right will have problems. Today it seems that Pandu himself, beloved of the people, has come back from the forest. If we have ever given charity, if we have ever performed sacrifice, if we have any ascetic merits, then let the Pandavas live here for 100 years. Right? So that they're going to be there and do everything nicely for so long. It just means that it's perfect. The brothers smiled and raised their hands in blessings. Their eyes streamed with tears as they again saw their city and its people. Soon they saw Dhritarashtra and Bhishma, who had come out on the road to meet them. Right, so depending upon who it is, you might come out on the road or just wait there at the palace, or even sometimes, meet them at the gate or like this. So depending upon how is the mood and all that. So because the people were there, they wanted to meet, so you let them meet first, then Bhishma and Drona come out. Because once they come, it gets formal, everyone will stand back. But this way the people could go forward. The king and his minister embraced the Pandavas, who in turn greeted their elders with due reverence, touching their feet and bowing before them with folded hands. Yudhishthira then inquired after the welfare of the kingdom and its people, and was told that everything was flourishing, right? Because that's what we're saying. Dhritarashtra and Duryodhana know how to manage the kingdom, but the problem is it's not about the people. It's about just doing so that if they manage properly, people aren't upset. Then they stay in power. So it's about being in power rather than while they're in power, then take care of the people. So externally the effect is the same, but the attitude is different. That's why you see the people are hoping for the Pandavas, because there you have the proper relationship. It's not just this dry, formal governance. Gradually the party moved into Dhritarashtra's palace. After being worshipped by the Kuru elders, Krishna followed behind them. Duryodhana's wife, Dushala, met Draupadi and Kunti and accompanied them into Gandhari's quarters. Right, so the ladies would go into their own and have their own scene, where they sit out there, and the men, it's all that formal and all that kind of thing, and they'll go just very relaxed. As Gandhari embraced Draupadi, she thought of the prophetic voice that is spoken when Draupadi first stepped out of the fire. It was said that she would be the death of the world's Kshatriyas, right? So Gandhari has a lot, means her son is said as he's going to be the destruction of the Kuru dynasty. And then this girl is going to be the cause of the death of all the Kshatriyas. So then, there's going to be something that her son's going to do that then she's going to be the cause, right? The blindfolded queen had developed a powerful inner vision due to her austerities. She could understand that Draupadi was destined to cause her son's destruction. Still, Gandhari felt no malice towards Draupadi. She had resigned herself to the eventuality of faith, right? She just knows everything's going to be destroyed. So she is, as the wife of Dhritarashtra, the mother of Duryodhana, she just does her duties and all that nicely, but she knows that ultimately it's all going to be finished because of this attachment. She can see it's wrong, but she's a queen, she's Kshatriya, she knows what's the standards. Duryodhana was wicked and selfish, right? But he'll deal nicely with his mother, so she'll reciprocate like that. But the problem is he has these qualities. His brothers followed him blindly. Surely they would reap their rightful reward. All-powerful providence controlled everything. Men were simply instruments of destiny, driven by desire and hate. Right? So they see these things, but this guy can do nothing. But she, I'm sure even if she tells Dhritarashtra or tells her sons, they're not going to listen. So it's just, she doesn't bother. The queen blessed Draupadi and then warmly greeted her old friend Kunti. In Dhritarashtra's council chamber, the king spoke before the Pandavas in a trembling voice. It is with joy that I sit here today with Pandu's sons. The gods have surely been merciful to the Kurus in that these 5 heroic brothers still live. So that no further disputes may arise between us, I want to give the Pandavas half the kingdom. Yudhishthira, my child, go to Khandava-prastha. This shall be your half of the kingdom. Live there peacefully. Right? So immediately he just gets down to business. I want to announce, give half the kingdom, right? Because the whole kingdom is Pandu's kingdom. And so then he wants to give the Hastinapur's in, that's there. And then to Khandava-prastha, that, because you have Indraprastha, so this is Khandava-prastha. So that's for, that'll be within, means you have Hastinapur. Bhishma and Vidura looked at one another, but said nothing. Krishna, who was sitting upon a splendid seat of golden jewels, and who appeared like the sun illuminating the assembly, smiled when he heard the king's proposal. He knew the region the king was so generously offering to the Pandavas. Khandava-prastha was a vast area, and it was certainly half the kingdom, right? So he's given half the kingdom, so it's certainly half, if not a little bit more. It may have been a generous half. But it was nothing but a jungle and desert. There were no cities, not even any settlements, although it had once been the site of the Kuru's capital, right? Because before you had Khandava-prastha, but then something happened. A rishi had long ago cursed that land when he felt offended by a Kuru king. It was now a wasteland. Right? So he's given. So he's thought about it, because he's thought, okay, they're all setting like this and that, and so then he's saying, okay, yes, we have to give them their rightful, kingdom and all that. We'll give them half the kingdom, invite them here so we can do all this and make it all happen. But he hadn't told anybody who they were going to give was Khandava-prastha. So that's kind of an interesting twist on the whole thing. So his sons still stay king of what they have now. And an area, there's no people living there. Nobody, nothing, not a village, nothing lives there like that. And so then, giving that, then, he's kept his promise, but at the same time Duryodhana hasn't lost anything like that. Okay, so I'll end here. Om Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.